We talk a lot about crimes committed by children, but it's not often we hear from those children until now. I'm Mark Roper with WMAR-2 News. We were given exclusive access to a group of teens incarcerated here at the Victor Cullen Center, teens who are trying to put their troubled past behind them. There are a total of 13 facilities in Maryland that work to rehabilitate juvenile offenders. But the kids we talked to were all at Victor Cullen Center in Frederick County. Because they are either minors or entered the system as juveniles, we're keeping their identities anonymous. It's their stories we want you to hear. The specifics of their cases are confidential. Physical barriers make the Victor Cullen Center one of Maryland's most secure placement facilities for teens convicted of a crime. But those inside describe a harsh life on the outside.
I kept saying my mom cried. She'd try to hide it, you feel me? Like she'd try to make sure she in her room quiet, try to cry quietly. And I'm like, why is she crying? And my older brother came to me and was like, Mom's late on the rent, we about to get kicked out. I'm trying to help my mom out. So that's why I led me up to the decisions I made to end up in here.
I grew up in Baltimore City. I grew up all over. My mom was on Section 8, so we was always moving from place to place, but I mostly grew up in East Baltimore. Growing up in Baltimore, you gotta grow up fast.
1 out of every 4 kids placed into a state juvenile justice facility comes from Baltimore City.
I started off at 12 years old selling drugs, you feel me, for older dudes, just because I thought I had to. I didn't see no other option. I didn't want to look for no other option, you know. And then when I turned 14, my father overdosed off heroin.
For Lamar, survival meant doing whatever he had to do.
A lot of us is faced with responsibilities that children are supposed to be faced with. I never had no father figure in my life. My mom was a single mom of 6 kids. So growing up, I just had to do what I had to do to provide for my mom and my brothers and sisters.
But Mike grew up with a father in his life who made him work for what he wanted.
My upbringing is so much different than like other kids. Like other kids, you just, Mom, this and that, can I get these shoes? This and that, Mom, can I get these shoes? They're like, yeah, this and this, go ahead. Because they got that kind of money, but like for me, like, I really gotta earn it.
Instilling a strong work ethic should have kept Mike out of trouble, but an inability to control his temper became a problem for him in high school.
I met this girl, and like, I got super involved with her. So any little thing, I would always just beat someone up for talking to her, all that.
Lamar also developed a work ethic, except his earned him more trouble than he bargained for.
I'd never seen people be successful with jobs and stuff like that. All the people I seen with jobs was working 9 to 5s and was barely getting by with the checks that they was getting. So I just started doing what I saw the fast money people doing, and that's what I thought was the right way.
Of course, not recognizing it was the wrong way led the kids we talked with on a path straight to incarceration.
I spent time and I got kicked out. I spent time in another placement and got kicked out. And this is my last resort.
My first time ever getting locked up, they already saw like a pattern of my behavior. I was 15, sent me straight to placement.
At the end of the day, I look at it like it was a blessing, me getting caught at the time.
Surprisingly, a lot of the kids we talked with are happy they got caught because it was the first time in their lives that they were being held accountable for their actions. We got to spend a lot of time with these kids and really got to talk with them about what got them to where they are today and where they're headed from here. And again, we're not showing their faces because they are working on changing their future. A variety of run-ins with the law often puts troubled kids face to face with the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services.
I did know what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't care about the consequences because I never thought that I was going to get caught. I mean, I understand everybody get caught once in their life or down the road, but I just didn't think that was going to happen to me.
Lamar isn't alone in getting caught. More than 800 kids were incarcerated statewide in the juvenile justice system in 2018. Nearly 90% are male, more than 10% are female, all under the age of 21. And there are many reasons why these kids find themselves in trouble with the law, from a traumatic childhood and peer pressure to biological factors.
They don't mature until about age 25. The last part of their brains to develop is the frontal lobe. That's the part that controls your executive functions and would lead you to say, oh, you know, I may not want to do this because it could get me in trouble.
Victor Cullen takes the most serious offenders from carjacking to robberies, with the most common being second-degree assault. Maryland Department of Juvenile Services Secretary Dr. Sam Abed explains what's in store for kids who commit those crimes.
We have a decision to make for those misdemeanor cases. So right there at that decision point, we can either informally supervise the youth or divert that youth out of the system if it's a misdemeanor offense. Again, we're a public safety agency. Any felony cases do get forwarded to the state's attorney.
Some avoid incarceration by being put on house arrest or making amends with their victim.
Your defense lawyer is never going to let you say you're sorry because that's an admission. But in this process, you get to that sincere apology, and then they come to a resolution. They'll actually come up with an agreement that they sign off on.
But others, like Bill and Mike, may face a different fate.
I got booked, and they called my mom to come pick me up. She said she won't pick me up. And I was like, damn, you feel me? Like, I ain't never expect this to come to like this. But I couldn't be mad because I put myself in this position.
So the judge, he already saw, by the severity of my charges, that, it's like a pattern, and since I'm so young, doing stuff like that, I forgot what he said. He said that it's like a violent pattern that he wants to deal with right now, so kill it at the root.
For some of the incarcerated teens, being separated from their normal life is giving them a chance to thrive in the classroom and when they return home. Despite the locked gates, fences, and barbed wire, the Victor Cullen Center is not a prison, but it is a facility where dozens of kids find themselves incarcerated.
I made the choices to be where I'm at now, so all I gotta do is just deal with it now and get it over with, and then go home and just be better.
Once I realized who was actually there in that cell with me while I was in there, and I looked around, I was by myself. All the people that said they cared for me and they'd do all this stuff for me that I was hanging out with out in the streets, they weren't nowhere to be found.
Victor Cullen Superintendent John Plummer explains the approach the Department of Juvenile Services takes to helping convicted kids become better adults.
We don't fix kids, we help kids manage themselves better. That's our whole goal, so that way they can manage themselves and deal with whatever outside stressors.
Behavioral psychologist Dr. Laurel Estupinian-Kane believes the path to success for many kids begins the moment they first step onto campus.
From that first interaction, I think we just build from there. I mean, the rapport is seeing them every day. I might not see them for counseling every day in a formal way, but I see the youth constantly.
At Victor Cullen, the Maryland State Department of Education oversees a curriculum featuring 6 hours of classes 5 days a week with state-certified teachers. Teenagers can prepare to earn their diploma for when they return back home and are back in school or earn a GED.
I never went to school, so me coming into the system, I was still in the 9th grade. But coming up here, still doing what I gotta do in school and everything, I should be graduating before my class.
Many of these kids now expressing hope for their future for the first time in their lives.
For the first time, I was being really held accountable for my anger issues. I used to black out. Now I really gotta think twice, because I'm not trying to stay in placements. I'm trying to work on getting my GED so that when I go home, I could just go to work without having to violate my probation. And then I was thinking about either becoming a mechanic or enlisting in the Marines.
I think I'm gonna be the first in my family to graduate high school, without getting a GED or whatever.
One of the things I tell the youth is you're not necessarily defined by your history. We like this place to be a fresh start for you. Yes, you've done some things that have led to you being placed here, but you don't have to live your life being defined by that.
As you heard, they talk about completing their high school education, something many thought wasn't possible. But many are also now making a commitment to themselves and their future by going to college, and that's because here at Victor Cullen and other juvenile facilities, the focus is more on the do's than the don'ts.
Every place has its ups and downs, but at Victor Cullen, it's more ups than downs. We have a giant support system.
A lot of kids, they want to fight, they want to be violent, they want to break things, they're very destructive when things get bad. So teaching them not to make the situation worse, teaching them about how to repair what they've already made a mistake for and making it better instead of making it worse.
And Dr. Laura Estupinian-Kane helps them work on more positive ways to communicate.
For some, yes, they're quite verbal and they're able to express that way, but not everyone can. So this is a different way for say a youth who's very talented in art and he can express all of his history through that, or he can just express what he's feeling today.
Along with tapping into their creative side, positive reinforcement is used through the STAR Behavior Management Program.
Instead of telling youth what they can't do, instead of using that negative connotation of saying, no, don't do that, no, you can't do that, we tell the youth what we're looking for. So in the dining hall, we want you to stay seated. We want you to say thank you when you're presented your meal.
Guidelines and expectations to be met every day. They are assessed on how they solve problems in a mature and responsible manner, their ability to stay task-focused, act as a role model, respect themselves, others, the facility, and rules, along with taking responsibility for their actions.
Even when a youth may need to be held accountable, that they understand where we're coming from. We're not coming from a punitive point of view. We're coming from a treatment point of view. We're coming from, we need you to do A, B, and C so we can do X, Y, and Z to get you home.
In turn, they earn points on their behavior, which are tabulated into a daily percentage as staff track their progress from freshman to senior or honors level.
As they progress through the levels, we hope to see some changes in their behaviors. We don't expect a youth who's on freshman level to be acting the same way as a youth on senior honors.
If they don't get in line, they don't earn any points.
If they don't follow the directive, our discipline and our accountability is progressive. We would talk to them. We would try to find out, is there a reason? Sometimes they are just going to be resistant. That's where we have the point system.
Failure to earn enough points not only prevents them from moving on to the next level, but delays their completion of the program, which determines when they can go home. Recently released Lamar says his stay at Victor Cullen has changed his behavior for the better.
I just took this time just to sit back and reevaluate some things. A lot of things that need to be thought out, like my crowd that I was hanging around, the people that I associated myself with. I had to change all that, because if I wasn't, it wasn't going to be no better.
Lamar is one of the most inspiring young men we met. He told us he got his GED before getting placed at Victor Cullen, and it's just the start of a new beginning for him as he now has his mind on college instead of the streets. The face of teens incarcerated in Maryland is mostly male and mostly African American. The facts and figures raised in this 245-page report highlight how kids are reformed in the state, but some of the facts, or lack thereof, could bring reform to the system itself. For more than 800 Maryland kids, a place like this was their home in 2018. And a recent report from the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services shows within a year of release, nearly half get arrested again.
I think a lot of them are successful. We use a very unforgiving way of evaluating success, recidivism, and if a kid, commits any small offense after they've been with us, they count as a recidivist.
Looking back at repeat offenders for 2018, many of those who get rearrested have their charges dropped, while 20% are reconvicted. Only 15% end up reincarcerated. The rest get to avoid incarceration by wearing an ankle monitor. But there is disparity in other numbers. 19% of those kids who are incarcerated are white, while more than 72% are black.
If you're black and you're male, you're more likely to be detained, you're more likely to be incarcerated, you're more likely to be treated more harshly, and that's not fair. It shouldn't work that way. And we have a responsibility to look at our system, and everybody has a responsibility to look at every step of their systems to address this.
While the overall number of kids being placed in a state facility are down since 2016, the number of youth incarcerated for a violent crime is on the rise. And according to the Department of Juvenile Services, Secretary Sam Abed, the most common offense, second-degree assault, is one many kids might commit unwittingly.
It is normal for adolescent kids to get into conflicts and fight, and we should not be bringing them into custody. We should not be incarcerating them for doing something that's normal behavior. What we should be doing is intervening with them and showing them that this isn't the way to solve that dispute.
Most of those kids being placed by the courts into the juvenile justice system are 15, 16, 17 years old. The DJS Data Resource Guide contains 245 pages of stats and information. What it doesn't reveal is how do these kids end up later in life.
Did they finish school? Did they go to college? Did they get married and have a family? Are they supporting that family and have a nice job? And unfortunately, that information is not available to us.
For the same reason, we can't show you the faces of incarcerated kids.
We want to protect their identities. We don't want to have, collateral consequences come in the way of their success later in life. And so they put up a lot of barriers to ensure that that doesn't happen. And we need to find a way to navigate through those so that we can find the success stories.
The state is developing a program which would make it easier to share information across agencies. The hope is that it would make it easier for families. For us, getting time to talk with Mike, Bill, and Lamar was inspiring. Lamar is also hoping his experience will not only inspire kids in the process, but also prevent others from making the same mistakes he did. After being convicted and committed to a secure facility for teens, 19-year-old Lamar couldn't be happier to put that part of his life behind him.
No longer a resident with Victor Cullen or any DGS facility. I feel good just to make my own decisions whenever I want to make them. I just love the feeling of freedom.
For many who've made their way through the juvenile justice system, being free means a fresh start. After Lamar earned his GED, it also means achieving what was at one time unthinkable for most.
I've started several college courses, so I can start at BCCC this summer for the summer semester.
Once free from the halls of their incarceration, some are drawing on their past experience to choose a new path to shape their future.
I'm 17 right now. I'm gonna turn 18. I'm gonna come home being a high school graduate from here. So that's a good thing. I'm gonna turn 18. I'm gonna enlist for the Marines. That's another good thing. And then while I'm in the Marines, can't mess up there.
Virginia Tech, if I go to a night school, I'm gonna go for criminology. And for Maryland University, I'm gonna go for secondary education.
And it's not just a desire to get a college degree, but a desire to inspire.
I have my own mentoring program for youth, boys and girls alike. You feel me? Especially that live here in Baltimore.
Lamar got a permit to direct traffic for road construction, and he also plans to go to Morehouse once he finishes community college. And we also met a young woman whose personality doesn't match what you would expect from someone who's had several run-ins with the law. And since she's trying to put her past behind her, we're also protecting her identity and not using her real name as she opens up about her life. A sporty ponytail and bright pink nails hint at this young woman's bubbly personality. But besides her hidden face, there's also another side to her you can't see.
I was like 14 maybe. I did a hit and run with a car. I was fighting. I was a lot. Yeah.
This was a pattern of behavior which eventually caused Vanessa to be incarcerated at a state-secure facility for girls.
I was more like on probation, and mostly probation, and like I did community service, and I did girls groups. I mean, I've done it all.
Vanessa believes a traumatic event in her childhood is the root of her problems.
My dad got deported when I was like in elementary school, so that took a big impact in my life because my dad was like my favorite person.
Having lost touch with her dad, she found trouble on the streets.
I guess you can say I was trying to get my mom's attention because she was always working all the time, and I just felt like she wasn't there. So I just started to go around and just find anything I can do to get my mind off my dad.
Now 21 years old, she was in and out of the juvenile justice system.
When I first came home, I was scared. I was frightened. I felt like I wasn't ready to come out. I actually told one of my, supervisors, like, I don't want to come home. Like, I want to stay. I know that sounds weird, but I wanted to stay.
Fear of an uncertain future was another reason she wasn't so anxious to leave.
I wanted to get my high school diploma because I knew myself. I knew that I wasn't going to come out and go back to school. Like, I just felt like I wasn't, all the promises that I made to myself, I knew I wasn't going to do it when I came home.
And now that she's back home?
I want girls and boys, I guess, to know that we can change, and don't let anyone tell you you can't do it just because you've been in the juvenile system. I've came so far, and I look at life so differently now.
If you could go back in time and do things differently, what would you change?
Do you want me to be honest with you? I wouldn't change one thing. Nope. Because I learned from my lesson. I learned a lot, and I wouldn't go back.
20,000 legal complaints are made against kids every year in Maryland. Many teens might receive probation or have their cases dropped, but hundreds end up incarcerated. And while their teen years start off on a bad track, the right course of action is putting many back on track, giving them opportunities they once believed were not possible. Thanks for watching this inside look at Maryland's juvenile justice system. For WMAR-2 News, I'm Mark Roper.